Australian boxing fans, what an absolute treat we have today. We have George Ferocious Kambosos joining us, undefeated lightweight contender. What a pleasure it is having you join us today to have a quick chat. George, how you been, mate?
I've been well. It's a pleasure to be on and obviously chatting with you guys, and obviously looking forward to the Australian fight fans and getting a better insight on Ferocious Kambosos.
Yeah, definitely, George. It's been a really sort of interesting time. Obviously, boxing fans across the globe and obviously in Australia have been, starved of, the sport we love. And it's great to catch up with you today, mate, and chat about, I guess, what's been happening with you over the last few months. Obviously, the COVID-19 situation has, put a halt to world sport period. So how's everything been with you? Have you been, still training? Obviously, you got a big fight coming up in a few months. How's your training been going?
Look, training's been great. Nothing's really changed for myself on the training end. I've been grinding hard. I've been training 2-3 times a day. The only thing that did change was I was in the US preparing for the Selby fight, which was scheduled for May 9th. And obviously COVID took over the world, so we had to, fly back to Sydney and, do our work here. But look, that's part of, adapting and, we're fighters, so we're rolling with the punches. And that's with everyone in the water at the moment. The way we are at the moment, we're a lot better than other countries. So, hopefully everyone follows and, we get to back to a normal position in the world.
For sure. I guess it does put things into perspective as well, doesn't it? Obviously a lot of things, sort of crazy times happening in the world, and with your career and whatnot, you obviously want to have these fights booked in, and you don't want interruptions with training camps. But the situation is what it is. Obviously the big fight with Lee Selby, a huge announcement back for, I think it's October 3rd. With the change coming back to Australia, what sort of alterations have you had to make with your training? Obviously, you probably wouldn't have the same sparring partners that you would have had back in the US.
Yeah, look, I'm working with some real good fighters here. Obviously, we're working on a certain game plan, but the camp will be in the US. And obviously, October 3rd is still a very long way away. We have the exemptions already set in place for us to get to the US, so that's no problem. So there will be no issue, there will be no distractions in camp. But this period of time has made me work on things that I haven't had time to work on. Make myself an even better fighter, because obviously I've been into camp and preparing for certain fights. So a lot of the time you don't get to work on certain small details. And I'm a student of the game and love to work on certain details. And it's been a good period for myself. I've been working hard. I've been working on them small details. I've been spending a lot of time with my kids and my family, and obviously the fight fans are going to see a better Ferocious when I do step in the ring against Lee Selby October 3rd.
Something that we can't wait for. And I guess as you touched on, have been able to spend a little bit of time with family. That's, I guess, one positive that sort of comes out of this this whole COVID-19 situation. Have you cherished the time with your young family?
Yeah, look, I've got 2 young kids and a beautiful partner, and this time has been fantastic. But again, I had them with me in Miami. I had them in camp with me. I love having that feel of home. Having my family with me. That's the sacrifices I make as a fighter, as a father, to have my family with me. And it costs a lot of money. Sometimes it does get hard, but to have them with me, it gives me that extra motivation. So for us, getting back to Sydney when the coronavirus obviously hit pretty hard in the US, that was a whole different story where we were trying to get back to Sydney, which was crazy. But it's been a different time for everybody. Everyone in the world is going through a different time, and we haven't seen that ever in our lifetime. This kind of virus. So it's been a crazy time.
Yeah, most certainly. And I guess you're I think only 26 years old, George. So your career is still you're nowhere near. I guess I would even say the middle point of your career. Still so many fights and years ahead. I guess with a young family and whatnot. How does it sort of change your perspective on your fight career? I mean, obviously, when you're fighting for yourself and you don't have kids, you might not be married or whatnot. Does it sort of change your perspective and I guess what you're actually fighting for when you have a young family?
It definitely does. When I look back at the young Ferocious without kids, it's a totally different person. A lot of the time I'll say a few different things back then, and I was pretty damn vocal back in the day. I'm still very vocal, still a very confident fighter. But now I've got my kids. Nothing really has changed when it comes to me being confident in my abilities and the way I fight. But I'm a father, at the end of the day, after fight, I want to get home to my kids. Everything I'm doing is for them. And they're my motivation, they're my inspiration. You know, my two kids. So I will put everything into this, like I have my whole career, 110% in, you know, to give them a better life, to give them, you know, the experiences that they've already had. And you got to think about it. My young daughter, you know, she's not even 3 years of age, and she's been able to watch her father fight at MGM Grand, MSG. Now that's a crazy experience already. She's had in her life. You know, some die-hard fight fans haven't had the chance to watch, you know, live boxing from two of the biggest arenas in the world. So they're the experiences, you know, I love to give to my young kids, and you know, it's been a great time, you know, spending this extra time with them as well.
For sure, and something that they'll look back with great pride, no doubt, seeing their dad fight at these massive venues as they were young children. And, you know, only sort of being 18-0, you know, not too many Australian fighters find themselves fighting on these massive shows in the biggest venues in the world. Tell us a little bit about your journey. I know you sort of started your training camps in America a little while back. At what point did you transition from, you know, having all your sort of training and your sparring in Australia to moving across the US and you know, doing training camps there?
Look, our goal when we first turned professional, you know, we're only 18 years of age. The goal was always to get to 10-0 and then move to the US, go out there and do the hard sparring, find the world-rated sparring, the former world champions that can go through the tough, you know, hardened Mexicans and South Americans and all these different styles, and to see where we cut it, see if we were ready for that next step. Obviously, once we went over at 10-0, you know, we could see that we can hang with these guys and get the better of these guys. So we knew we were in the right path, and that whole confidence grew. You know, that first camp was obviously called the Ogilvy fight, which was a massive fight back here, and it gave me that, I thought, that edge straight away, you know, by being over there. And look, since that day, obviously, since that fight and that fight camp, you know, all my camps have been in the US. My last 8-9 fights have been in the US, preparing. You know, and that's, as an Australian fighter, you have to be out there. You have to be preparing there. I mean, we have a bit of you know, a bad rap over there as fighters. They think we're easy beats. So for myself, I didn't want that. I wanted to be out there, you know, sparring the best fighters, you know, putting them on show and giving them the real work, what I'm about and what Australian fighters are about. And that's why the last fight, you know, at MSG, you know, I wanted a good test. I wanted a guy like Mickey Bay, a former world champion, to prove that, you know, we have serious fighters, and we do have a serious fighter right here, Ferocious Kambosos.
For sure. I think that performance certainly allowed people in the US to sort of see you showcase your talent and your skills. And obviously in Australia, we know what you're capable of. But I guess what I would like to ask you, George, who do you think the best fighter in Australia is?
You're looking at him right now.
Looking at him now.
I'm the best fighter here. No doubt about it. You knew that answer was coming back.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Look, not too shocked there.
No disrespect to any fighter. It takes a lot of guts to get in, but you know, the way we've earned it, the people we've beaten on our road to where we're at right now, you know, I'm the top dog here, and they all know it. They all know it. And look, we're going to continue to prove it and keep you know, moving towards that world title fight. You know, we're very focused on the Lee Selby fight. We know what we're in for, and we know how we're going to handle business. Once we take him out, we will be the mandatory challenger to the winner of Lomachenko and Lopez. And I'm telling you now, that fight is seriously, you know, going to happen. That is a massive fight and a mega attraction for Australia, and on the world scene. It's a huge fight. You know, you got some explosive, you know, punches in myself and Lopez, and obviously skillful wise, Lomachenko and Kambosos is a massive fight as well. It's a huge draw. So we're excited about these opportunities and these challenges.
Big opportunities ahead, George, and certainly Australian fight fans don't get these opportunities too often to watch these massive events. But we'll get to those potential fights in a minute. But I want to know, what is it that you believe separates you from other Australian fighters? What is it about Ferocious Kambosos that separates him from the rest of the pack?
I'm just a different breed to any of these fighters. You know, all my camps in the US. How many fighters, active fighters now in Australia, have their camps in the US consistently? How many of them? Every camp, every fight camp. Which fighter now in Australia has an active team over there? I mean, that everything is set in the US. Only myself. I mean, we went out there, like I said, real early. We went there and done our camp in the US. We learned our craft over there, and we tested ourselves in the deep waters. We'll throw straight in the lion's den. And that's why I back my ability. I know what I'm about. I mean, and the victories we had, the way we took out the division here in Australia, took everyone out. There was no one left, in my division. And we went to the US, and now we're doing the same in America. And I'm always looking to challenge myself. I'm always looking to fight the best. That's why I want these Lomachenkos. I want these Lopez fights. I mean, I want the Selby fight. I want the fight, in Wales. I asked for the fight in Wales. We want to test ourselves. We want to fight the best in their backyards and beat them in their backyards.
We know George, boxing is a sport generally where it's a matchup of good guy versus bad guy. Now, a lot of the times, outspoken fighters like yourself sometimes get put in the bad guy category. What is it, do you think, about Australian sport in general that, sometimes pigeonholes guys as the bad guy? And sometimes we find that the Australian public might criticise and, at times, jump on the back of fighters who can be a bit outspoken. Definitely, I'd say you're an outspoken fighter who speaks his mind. Why do you think the Australian public can, at times, have mixed responses to that type of personality?
Look, when you say the good guy and the bad guy, early in my career, I started building that bit of bad guy kind of, where the fans thought, who's this guy? Why is he talking so much? He hasn't proven anything. But things have changed. You get the odd guy saying, some negative talk or saying something online. But, a lot of support, a lot of fan base that I have right now is incredible. I mean, I have so much support. It's the biggest, fan base in Australian boxing. Look at my social media. Look at the support I get, worldwide, not even in Australia, but worldwide. But when it comes to the Australian sporting fans pulling down, obviously, a sporting athlete or a fighter, I'm not sure. I don't know why we have, that category of where we want to pull guys down. It's a crazy thing because I've been all over the world. I fought all over the world, and in the US, when a confident athlete or confident fighter speaks his mind and tells it the way it is, when they're going into a fight, they love it. They jump straight behind them. And
you fit in well over in America, George, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely do, and they love the way I talk my mind, and when I sit there and talk to the journalists and the reporters and all the media, they love it. That's what it's all about. I'm not sure why we have this this thing in Australia where they want to pull you a little bit down, but it's all part of the game. If that's the way it's going to be, then we'll continue to prove ourselves in the ring and keep doing what we've been doing our whole career. And like so many supporters have jumped on board. Ferocious. I'm sure there'll be plenty more.
Most definitely. And you spoke about before the upcoming fight with Lee Selby and how big that is, and a massive opportunity to get a shot at the IBF title. Tell me a little bit about Lee and what you think of him as a fighter.
Look, Selby is a very experienced fighter. He's been around the game for a very long time. He ruled the featherweight division for a long time. But I feel his time's passed, and even in his prime, the way I'm getting better by each fight. The speed, the power, the explosiveness, the boxing IQ, the footwork. And I feel like I'm becoming the full package. And I showed a hell of a lot of it in the Mickey Bay fight. And I'm very excited in this fight. Now, this is the kind of test I wanted, and we know the business we're going to do in this fight. We know what he's about. We know his style. But come October 3rd, we'll definitely be ready, and we'll be there to take him out in front of his hometown.
And you spoke about, obviously, him at featherweight and, the fact that he was a, supreme fighter in that division. When he fought a year or so ago, Josh Warrington, we obviously saw, him dismantled in that fight. It was a wonderful fight and a great treat for all sort of boxing fans. One sort of thing that I find similar between yourself and Warrington is that sort of relentless pressure, that relentless, in-your-face sort of style, which no doubt you're going to bring on fight night. Now, he obviously faced problems at featherweight against Warrington there. Obviously, moving up to lightweight, it's a different challenge. It's a higher weight division, and you're a fresh, hungry fighter, determined, undefeated. Do you think he can handle that pressure? And how long can he handle that for if you don't think he can?
110% he can't handle that pressure. Myself and Warrington have a lot of similarities, but I'm bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive, move better. So when you add that to the package, I mean, it's going to be too much for him. We'll see. We'll see how long he's going to hang in there for. But I know that he's not going to last the whole 12 rounds. I've got 12 rounds to take him out, and you're going to see a masterclass from myself to put myself at number 1 in the world, mandatory to the world title fight. I mean, it depends how tough he wants to be in front of his hometown. He might get beat up the whole 12 rounds, and get taken out right at the end, or we'll take him out early. We're very excited for this one.
Do the tactics change somewhat because you are fighting in enemy territory? Obviously in Cardiff, a lot of times we find fighters go overseas and put on great performances, and sometimes in a close-ish fight you see the hometown boy get the close decision. Do you need to try? Do you have to go for the knockout here to get victory, or are you confident that even a great performance over the course of 12 rounds can still get the nod from the judges?
Look, I'm confident in the judges. I'm confident in the British boxing board. I mean that they will give the right decision. But again, I'm so focused on taking him out. I want to make a statement to the world and statement to the champions, obviously Lomachenko or Lopez. Where we'll be the mandatory. We just took out another former world champion in their backyard. You got to think of the Mickey Bay fight. It was a 10-round fight. If that was a 12-round fight, he was not coming out for 11 or 12. So he can tick that off. If that was a 12-round fight, that's a knockout right there in his backyard. And you have to do the same against Lee Selby in his backyard, knock him out, and become the mandatory, earn the position, and earn the right for the world title fight. I mean, no other lightweight is doing that. You got to think of Devin Haney, Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, away from the champions. You got to think about them. They're not fighting former world champions. They're fighting guys that in the top 10 or 15. No former world champions, none in their backyard. I'm actually going into their backyards and taking them out. This is a huge moment for my career. We really can't wait. To be honest, I feel ready right now. I've been sparring every week. A couple of weeks ago, May 9th, I went and sparred 12 rounds, which was the original date of our initial meeting. We were supposed to fight before the COVID period. So I'm ready. I'm 100% ready, but we'll be ready October 3rd as well.
And provided you can get through that fight, George, which I certainly think you can. I shouldn't say if, when you get through that fight with the victory. Obviously, big names are ahead, like you said, Lomachenko and Lopez. Now, out of those two fighters, I know you'd be more than happy to fight either one of them. But, I mean, if you were to choose either one of them to fight, who would you love to fight most out of those two?
Look, Lomachenko is his name. He's the big name around the world. He's got the amateur pedigree. He's got all the world title, that he's cleaned up from featherweight to super featherweight, obviously a lightweight now. So he's the big name. He's the guy that, you want to fight. I'd love to fight Lomachenko. I'd love to test myself and show him what this, hungry young lion, from Australia with that Spartan warrior behind him, he's all about. But again, the Lopez fight excites me as well. He's young, he's hungry, like myself. We personally know each other as well. We fought on the same card in December. That fight excites me, but between both of them, I'd love the Lomachenko clash. Just being obviously with his pedigree and the whole, how many world titles he has he's won and his achievements. That's the fight. That's the test that I love. And to be the best, you got to fight the best. You got to beat the best.
And such an honourable attitude to have, George. I mean, in today's day and age, we see so often, fighters are very selective with who they want to fight, when they want to fight them, where they want to fight them. But the fact that you're, willing to fight, arguably the pound for pound best in the world, still so early in your career, you're only 18-0. You could easily, take easier fights, build your record, and wait for, an opportunity when you may even be more ready. But the fact that you want to go for it now is, like I said, is fantastic. Australian boxing fans love that now.
We're ready for that test. Obviously Lomachenko's a southpaw. He's got great footwork. He moves well. But you got to think, we've sparred over 250 rounds with Manny Pacquiao. He was one of the best southpaws, to ever lace up a pair of gloves. So we're ready for a test like that. He's not going to show me anything that I haven't seen before. And, I'm not being cocky. I'm not being brash. The Australian fight fans and the Australian sporting fans got to understand, I'm a fighter. I have to be confident. If I'm going to go there with an attitude of me thinking, he's this, he's that, and, he's too good for me, there's no point in me even accepting the fight. People have to understand that, confidence is not arrogance. You know, we're fighters, and we're you know, we are who we are. But you know, I bring on all them tests. I love, you know, proving myself. You know, you got to think about the Ogilvy Barla fights. You know, even early in my career, you know, Robert Toomey, Delos Reyes, when he was taking out everyone here. I mean, they all said I wouldn't beat them guys. I mean, and obviously we stepped up to the plate, and not only did we beat them, but we made it look easy, to be honest. Same with the Mickey Bay fight. A lot of people said this is a tough test. You know, we shouldn't be taking a test, you know, where we're already sitting in a fantastic position. But that's the fighter I am. That's this Spartan warrior, you know, this Anzac, you know, fighting spirit that I have inside me that wants to prove himself and wants to continue, you know, getting to the top of the table and obviously get to the top.
For sure. And with someone like Lomachenko, obviously such a highly credentialed amateur and, you know, sensational pro, I think everyone in boxing would say it would take someone with a real warrior mentality and someone who's willing to go to, you know, any degree to win the fight. That's what it would sort of take. But looking at Lomachenko, and I'm sure you've studied him from afar for quite a while now, what weaknesses do you see in Lomachenko that you would be able to exploit if you guys were to match up against one another?
Well, obviously, you got to look at the fights where, you know, he's been really tested. You know, Salida, he lost against Salida. You know, that high pressure, that high output of punches, you know, and comfort style, sure, you know, really affected him. Yes, that was early in his career, but again, I'm a bigger, more explosive, faster, you know, more skillful puncher than what Salida is. I mean, then obviously Linares, an aging Linares, put him down.
Yeah.
And so more explosive power and speed and the angles that I bring to the table and the way I move, you know, we can definitely frustrate Lomachenko. So we know what we're about. You know, we will continue to prove it. And again, once we take out Lee Selby, no one can take that away from me. I would have earned the right to fight, you know, a Lomachenko or a Lopez, you know, for the world title fight will be the mandatory.
Do you think there's a legitimate chance that we could bring that fight against Lomachenko or Lopez to Australia? I know you've spoken about your desire to fill out a massive stadium in Sydney or Melbourne and put on a big treat for Australian boxing fans. How likely do you think that could happen if you were to match up against either one of those two?
100% it can happen. We have some very big, heavy investors behind us. You know, when Aram went out and said last year between Kambosos and Lomachenko, he'd love to have it here in Australia. We already spoke to a few government officials in Victoria, and I'd love to bring it to Melbourne. And I'm sure the government officials here in Sydney, you know, the sporting officials would love to have it here as well. So, you know, you look at Horn and Pacquiao where they've done 45,000 people. You know, when you put in myself, you know, the biggest name in Australian boxing, you know, such a big fan base, and you put the pound for pound number one, a guy in his prime with all them world titles, and you take that to, you know, possibly Melbourne, you know, with all the Australians and all the Greeks and all the boxing fans, all the sporting fans.
George, I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited now, mate, just thinking about the prospect.
I'm getting goosebumps. I'm here in my boxing gym. I'm about to start hitting my bag. It's a very realistic, you know, fight. And like I said, once I earn this position, I take Selby out. I mean, like I said, I'm 110% focused on Lee Selby. But once we take him out, everything is set, everything is ready. You know, for myself and Lomachenko to fight, for myself and Teofimo Lopez to fight. And look, you got to think, Lopez a couple of weeks ago called me out. Yeah, he got the IBF champion of the world. You know, he went out and called me and said, look, if Lomachenko doesn't want to fight me, I'll fight Kambosos. You know, so I'm on their mind, and you know, if their bosses aren't talking about me, they're actually talking about me. So we're in a very good position.
Yeah, certainly, George. It's exciting times for Australian boxing, period. But you know, in your situation, you know, two massive fights on the horizon. Obviously, you've got the massive fight with Lee Selby on October 3rd in Cardiff, which we all can't wait for. And you've got all of Australia behind you, George, supporting you, the Ferocious one. So, mate, it's going to be very exciting. We're still a few months away, so obviously you've got a bit of training and a bit of time to sort of get through until then, George. But it's going to be a fight that we're all going to be tuning in probably early on a Sunday morning on a massive Matchroom show. And no doubt you're going to do the whole of Australia proud, George. And we can't wait to see you on fight night. And it's been a real pleasure chatting to you, George. And you know, such an entertaining and exciting Australian fighter speaking his mind. It's always exciting and great for the Australian boxing fans to connect with one of our best, or the best, as you said.
It's a pleasure to have sat down and chatted with you guys, and obviously for all the fans, watching this and supporting me. And I appreciate your support. We'll continue to make you guys proud, continue to fly the Australian flag and the Greek flag on the world scene. And look, just know that we're working extremely hard to bring mega fights back here, real fights. Fights where a fighter's gone out and earned this position. Every Australian loves that, and we're working extremely hard to make these fights a reality. But thank you for the support. I appreciate it. It was great chatting with you guys.
No worries, George. You're an absolute star. We'll talk very soon, and take care and all the very best.
Pleasure. Thank you.